Please join me with a round of applause to our moderators and speakers. Let's welcome Dr. Chen Dongshen as the moderator. Dr. Chen is the advisor, convener of Dset, and principal investigator of NSTC. Joining us are Mr. Mark Valentine of Skydio, Dr.蔡Minhuang from Aerospace Industrial Development Corporation in Taiwan, Mr. Yurii Poita from the Center for Army Conversion and Disarmament Studies in Ukraine, Mr. Peter Mattis from Jamestown Foundation. Last but not least, Ms. Cathy Fang is Policy Analyst of National Security and Economic Security Program at Dset. Dr. Chen, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good afternoon, distinguished guests and esteemed speakers and fellow participants. It is my great honor to welcome you all to today's panels on drone supply chain resilience. In an era marked by increasing geopolitics tensions and rapid technological transformation and the pressing needs for sustainable and secure logistics, the resilience of the drone supply chain have never been more vital. And we are privileged to be joined today by 5 distinguished speakers from around the world. Each bring unique insights from their respective regions, especially from Ukraine and their sectors, ranging from cutting-edge technological development and policy frameworks to industrial and national defense applications and strategic insights. So in order to save time, I will start from Cathy, please.
Hi, everyone. I think that a lot of people come here for me, so it's my honor to have this report. So I'm going to introduce our latest report, Drones for Democracy. And while I'm the presenter, I want to contribute all my efforts to my teammates. So, first, let's come to why. So why this report? So we have 2 questions. By modeling Ukraine's experience, can Taiwan develop a self-reliant UAV supply chain? And how can U.S. and Taiwan cooperation assist us to achieve this objective? So I think our report is special on the methodology. We are really an interview-based report, and we interview current and retired government officials who specialize in drones. And also, we interview 7 leading domestic UAV manufacturers. A lot of representatives just sit downstairs. So I'm contributing all their contributions. So what's the progress right now? I think everyone is curious about this question, and I'm also curious about, and I get an answer. So from Biden administration, he set 3 objectives. First, promoting industry development. Second, strengthening self-defense, self-reliance. Third part, deepening integration into democratic supply chain. So Biden administration is really focused on export-oriented approach, so making Taiwan's UAV industry emerge into Asia-Pacific hub. So how many UAV does we have right now? So from Minister of National Defense, they have 3 approaches. First one is buy from U.S. So there are 980 units. And second one is from Zhongke 700 units. And third part is their biggest tender, 3,400 for commercial grade military use drones. So it's across for 4 years. And additionally, Taiwan's government this May have just announced they are going to procure 47,000 UAV. So it's the biggest procurement right now. But this budget hasn't been allocated. It's still in LY. This is the surprising part. So the progress will be the export growth. So you can see that 2023, just half year, there are just 200. and the exportation destination is US. And from 2024, the whole year is 3,000, and especially for Europe and US. But you can see on 2025, this year, just Q1, 3 months, we achieved 3,000. That means in 3 months this year, we achieved the whole year last year. And you can see that the yellow one, who can guess, is Czech Republic. So we distribute to more Europe market. First one is Poland, second one is Germany, the third one is Czech. So our finding is that we export growth transfer from US, especially US is steadily growing, but Europe we see a strike. And the export grows from 2.7 increase in value. However, there's always a challenge. So based on the export data, our team estimate that the Taiwan's 4-year annual productions can be 8,000 to 10,000 units. But you see the goals. After 4 years, our goal is 180,000. So there is still a big gap. And also, compared to Ukraine, they can produce 400,000 drones. So we see a lot of gaps inside our islands and also with the international markets. And we also see the structural limitation. There are 3. One is limit production scale. Because we have a high manufacturing cost, everyone buy DJI but don't buy Taiwanese drones. But because we have a low domestic and international procurement. And the second part is the supply chain bottlenecks. One is the US ITAR control. We still have the thermal sensor technology still want to get from ITARs, and we hope that US friends can just pass us. And also the Chinese material earth dependency, I think that is faced in every industry. And the third part is the technological gaps and component dependency in 3 chips, 2 software, and also the gimbal cameras. But how can we just overcome this challenge? So US and Taiwan UAV cooperation is the key. And we know that AIT director and also our defense minister have a really positive political signal on this. However, there's always a challenge about this. So first one is the limit US market access. Right now, we have no public known experts in US commercial market. We can't buy in Target or Amazon, no Taiwanese UAV. And also, we are just one UAV firm, Cotronic, have get a state level government procurement. And also, we have no federal government procurement, no Blue Green UAS lists. What is this? This is a preferred list by US government. So we are not on the preferred list right now. And also the limit scope of U.S. Taiwan UAV cooperation. Right now we are just stay on the subsystem integration level. We have no financial assembly or sustainable rights like our F-16V. And also we have no legal recognition as a strategic partner. So we hope that next year NDAA can have this in their text. And the third part is we are no design and platform level cooperation like US and ROK and US-Japan cooperation. So we lack this mechanism to make a deeper military UAV cooperation. So my conclusion is that, yeah, Taiwan's UAV industry have some progress, but we still have challenge and we have a big, far challenge to go. And what I've mentioned, the structural constraints. However, U.S. can be a decisive factor, and we echo that U.S. and Taiwan UAV cooperation is more immediate than before. And we hope that opens U.S. market and also standardized co-production, co-development can for Taiwan to build a robust, self-reliant UAV supply chain industry. And we hope this presentation can give you several takeaways to home. Thank you very much.
All right. Cathy, I actually came here to hear you, so that was very good. First off, thank you to Dset for this opportunity. It really is my honor to be here. And thank you who all came to talk about this extremely important topic. I am Mark Valentine. I'm at Skydio, and I lead our national security business there. I've been with the company for a little over 3 years. Prior to that, spent time at some other tech startups doing some AI work, and I worked for this very small company called Microsoft. And prior to that, I served 27 years as a U.S. Air Force officer, primarily flying F-16s. And all of my friends hate me now because I'm replacing humans in cockpits, and I try to explain to them, I'm not replacing them. The arc of technology is actually replacing them. So with that introduction, I realized that we are the last panel, and many of you are worn out, as we are worn out. So I will try to be brief and leave time for questions. But I do have a few trends that I want to share with you all, because I think it's important when we look at the drone industry in general. So first, this topic today is about supply chains, integration, et cetera. I'm actually not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about that. Mr. Yates spoke in detail about it this morning, as did several others on the AI and the semiconductor panels, and many of the same challenges exist in the drone or UAV or USV industry. So if you think about what a drone is, it's essentially a bunch of chips. There's a CPU, which is chips-based. You've got sensors, which have chips in them. You have batteries, which have chips controlling them. You have motors that have chips in them, et cetera, et cetera. So many of those same things apply, and I don't want to repeat just due to time. But I would like to start with a provocative statement, just something to get you to think, and this is something you would not expect to hear from an executive at a drone company, but the provocative statement is this: no one really cares about drones. They don't. What they care about is what the drone can do for them. How can it make them more effective at doing their job? Can it help them accomplish their mission? That is what people care about. And I think it's really important that we step back and ask ourselves that question and remind ourselves that we don't care about the drone, we care about what it can do. Because when we focus on just the drone, it tends to limit our thinking. And we put ourselves in a box and we think about how drones are used today, not necessarily how they can help us do things tomorrow. So what do drones do? At the very highest level of abstraction, drones do precisely and only three things. They move, they can sense things, and they can affect things. So that movement, and by the way, when I'm using the word drone, I am talking about a multi-domain drone, some that might move through the air, one that might swim on the water, one that might walk on the ground, and some that might swim under the water. So movement is an important part of this. And the sensing function, maybe they're using light that we can see, the visible light spectrum, could be the thermal spectrum. Some drones smell with things like OIG sensors to detect gas leaks. There are numerous ways that these things can sense in their environment. And then finally, many drones can perform actions to affect things in the real world. That could be dropping medicine to a stranded survivor, or a bottle of water, or a life preserver for someone who's trying to swim. It could track a suspect to help law enforcement officials intercept them. Or in certain cases, which I'm sure Yurii will cover in more detail, it could carry a small bomb or grenade and do direct kinetic action on a target. Could also carry a jammer to perform jamming operations. But move, sense, and affect, those are the three things that drones do. So a few trends that I want to mention with everyone. We talk a lot about the tech, again, when we think about drones. You know, how many pixels is your camera? What's your FLIR resolution? And again, I think that limits our thinking. So when we talk about drones and the concept of warfare, I've heard the term tech war mentioned over and over again, especially with the kickoff of the Ukraine-Russia war. However, these tech wars at some level are always also trade wars. And we've seen economic tradecraft being used to limit drones, et cetera, in these conflicts. And that highlights, I think, the importance of the supply chain. The next thing, and Mr. Yates did a great job this morning talking about the geopolitical trends and the historical trends that we've seen. And so I'm not going to redo that. I can't do as good a job as he did. But on top of those trends, there are additional tech trends, miniaturization, digitization, that are driving a lot of this. And specific to drones, the real trends that we're seeing is that years ago, these things started out as toys. And when there were toys, no one cared too much about having a secure supply chain, because if you lost your toy, it wasn't hugely impactful to your life. But pretty soon, these toys became tools. And they became an important part of how people did their jobs, whether that is to protect citizens as public safety officials, whether it is to survey an environment, to do intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance in a military environment, or to do a direct kinetic action in that military environment. So they became tools. And now we're seeing that they're turning into infrastructure. And as they become infrastructure, what I mean by that is they're becoming a critical part of people's lives and their jobs. And therefore, if you lost access to that tool or that piece of infrastructure, it fundamentally changes what you can do and in many ways can lead to mission failure. Part of this also is as we're watching some of these drone technology trends, we are watching people move away from the traditional way people think about using drones. So if I were just to say using drones in Ukraine, many of you in your mind are going to have this picture of Ukrainian soldiers crouching in a ditch with a controller in their hand, flying an FPV drone into a tank. So that is an image that is in everyone's head. What we are seeing, though, more and more frequently, people are starting to break that control paradigm. That is a one-to-one control paradigm where every drone requires a single human to be its brain and to be its guidance system. As we add more and more autonomy, and this is what we focus on at Skydio, we are trying to break that one-to-one paradigm so that a single human can cast their intent to hundreds, thousands of drones. Ours obviously fly, but they could be walking or swimming drones, so that humanity can get an increased value out of the use of those drones. We're also looking at methods and opportunities to forward deploy these drones using things like docks, which are like little miniature aircraft hangars for small drones, so that they can be positioned in an area that is more appropriate for the mission. i.e. police forces might put them in areas where there's a higher probability of crime. Military organizations might put them on a mobile boat, float them near the target, and then take them off from there. And these are ways to minimize some of the issues with them. So this breaking the one-to-one control paradigm and going to one-to-many is important. And one of the final things I'll leave you with is this idea of scale. So Cathy shared a slide with you with some procurement numbers on there, and those numbers were in the hundreds. In a certain case, they were showing in the thousands. I'm sure Yurii will back me up on this, but I'm here to tell you we need to be thinking at least 2 orders of magnitude higher than those numbers. If our goal as Western democracies, allied democracies, is to deter the PRC, we're not going to do it with hundreds. We're not going to do it with single-digit thousands. It's going to be orders of magnitude, 2 orders of magnitude at least, more to get that done. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Mark. And Director Tsai, please. Now your turn.
Thank you, Dset's invitation. And I'm Alex Tsai. I come from AIDC. AIDC is the leading company of the Taiwan aerospace industry. But today I will, on behalf of the Teddy Boa, to present the Teddy Boa. Okay. I think Cathy just mentioned the government policy on the drone industry development, the 3 objectives. But they also have the 5 strategies you can see here. The government right now are working very hard to generalize, to work out a plan for these 5 strategies to realize the government policy. Sorry. Okay, so what is the Teddy Boa? Okay, this is the Taiwan Excellent Drone International Business Opportunity Alliance. It's established last September by the MOEA. AIDC and the 7 co-chair lead the Taiwan drone industry. The major mission is we need to work as a team to follow the G2G discussion to pursue the overseas B2B opportunity. So this is the organization of the alliance. So we got the cases. They represent the government. And each is, they will help the technology development. And right now, we have more than 240 companies to join this alliance. We classify our company into 3 tiers. Tier 1 is the platform provider, and the Tier 2, they provide the module, and the Tier 3, they have the sensor, the component, and the manufacturing of the software. This is the distribution of 3 tiers. So I think Taiwan has very strong and full drone supply chain. But there are also many critical technology required. For example, the cybersecurity and the autonomy of the flight control and the IR sensor. And in order to in order to lower the cost, we need to integrate system on module or system on chip. The next step for the alignment, we perform the non-China supply chain survey. Not only for the cybersecurity concern, but also we hope the supply chain resistant. Okay. Current domestic procurement requirement, the military, they want 100% non-China source. So they will request the proof of the original source, and also they will perform the hardware inspection. Now for the Ministry Department, they will focus on the security. So the communication control and the software will not from the China source. Now for the international business, they will depend on the users' demand. The non-China supply chain is the Taiwan drone industry opportunity. So Alliance performed the on-site survey of 45 companies in Taiwan. The product meet the 100% non-China source where we gather in the catalog of the Teddy Boa. And we will keep update this catalog. For the alignment next step, we are discussing with the U.S. UVSI for the Green UAS certification. And also we hope we can opportunity to apply the American DIU UAS certification. And for the technology development, because based on the Ukraine experience, during the wartime, there were no GNSS, there were all no remote control. So we need a highly autonomous drone and also with the edge computing, okay, AI computing. But there are also 2 raw materials. We still need to find out the solution. The first one is the rare earth for the magnet in the motor. The second one is the raw material of the anodes of the battery share. So the 2 raw materials are still the problem to resolve the supply chain resilience. Okay, the last one is we hope we can attract more Taiwanese semiconductor giants to invest in the drone industry. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Tsai. Yurii, please. Do you need to point?
Hello, everyone. This is definitely a great pleasure for me to take part in this discussion. Thank you very much, Dset, for inviting me here to share my observation and to learn from you as well. I'm going to talk about the evolution of the drone warfare in Ukraine during this more than 3 years in different domains. So I will touch upon with air domain, during the land operation, and on the maritime domain with so-called USV, unmanned surface vehicles, and lessons that Ukraine learned and conclusion that Ukraine made during this more than 3 years. So the first main conclusion, even if it became kind of cliche for the time being, that drones are definitely game changers. They are not game changers in short term, but also they are shaping our future. They are shaping the military operation. They're shaping the strategy, philosophy of the war, approaches, logistics, the financing, the resources, etc. So in 2022-2023, drones were the important element of so-called command and control system. They were used for tactical and operational intelligence, so-called ISR. They were used together with artillery system in order to improve their effectiveness and in order to reduce the number of artillery shells. Because if you have drone, you can more precisely hit your target, so you don't need to use 1,000 or artillery ammunition. So it reduces your cost. It reduces the amount of resources you use, and also FPV drones to attack tanks and armored vehicles as well. So result of this development in 2022-2023 that was Russia suffered significant loss in 2022, but Ukraine also failed its counteroffensive due to the huge amount of drones that also disrupted Ukrainian offensive operation. So next 2 years, there is another development. So first of all, the amount of drones on the battlefield is huge. So it's not only about 1,000 or hundreds of thousands, but it could be achieved kind of million per year. So the amount of drones on the battlefield is enough to attack every single soldier. And now it's about 80% of all of the damages on the battlefield are related to drones. So for the time being, artillery is not any more decisive factor. It could be decisive factor on some direction where you need to increase the firepower. But basically, drones substituted very much other types of weapons. Secondly, the effectiveness of drones increased a lot. So it's much less so-called commercial drones and more so-called commercial drones, but with some adjustment that made them more lethal, that improved their communication system, that made them more resilient towards electronic warfare, that also helped them to integrate so-called machine vision or artificial intelligence. Then on the battlefield, it's about 15 or 20 kilometers is a dead zone where everything that appears in this zone is instantly identified and instantly targeted by drones. So it changes very much the approach of logistic, approach of fortification system, combat field manuals, etc. And also one of the development that Ukraine now suffer very much is so-called Shahid drones. This is long-range drones kamikaze, but the amount that Russia is able to produce is about 100 per day. So 100 per day is attacking Ukraine, and they are actually overwhelming Ukrainian air defense system. So Ukraine just using the very expensive air defense missiles, and at some point Ukraine became run out of this missile system. So this is the challenge for Ukraine as well, and this is a lesson that these Shahid drones, they are very effective in terms of overwhelming very expensive air defense system. Then the changes of structure of armed forces also happened. For instance, now in Ukraine, in every single infantry brigade is created the drone battalion, regiment, and there are also brigades of drones and etc. And now we are approaching to the situation when drones are fighting against drones, or drones are helping other drones in terms of communication, logistic, delivering, or carrying each other, etc. So way forward, so where we are going. So first of all, drones should be as cheap and simple as possible. Not only so-called FPV drones, but also long-range drones, because their number is huge. Then they should be very easy to assemble. So they shouldn't be very much complicated, because it should be easy to provide logistic and change anything, change any components or communication system or other things, because the situation on the battlefield changed dynamically. So today's communication system, tomorrow's perhaps could not be effective. And also we see that complexity of their usage is becoming much higher. So there are different tactics. These drones should be integrated with electronic intelligence system, electronic warfare, command and control, etc. So it makes usage of them also more complicated. Then there are different communication systems are used, and this year new trend is usage of so-called fiber optic channel, and Ukraine for the time being didn't find any effective way to counteract these drones. And we do observe the reduction of role of soldiers on the battlefield. We see the importance and increasing importance of land drones that could help to provide logistics, because you cannot just deliver ammunition on the front line, on the first line, because the machine will be instantly targeted. So drones could help with this mission. So when it comes to the maritime domains, Ukraine achieved a few main goals, and there are definitely success stories for Ukraine. So first of all, Ukraine, without actual navy, used only USV, this unmanned surface vehicle, during this time, successfully destroyed or severely damaged number of dozen of Russian warships, including big one, frigates, missile boats, etc. Then Russian Navy was driven out, part of them was driven out from Western and Central Black Sea and from Crimea ports. And then number of Russian warships daily decreased a lot. So in 2022, it was about 50 of them that constantly attack Ukraine, and now it's about 1, 2, or even 0. And also using this USV, Ukraine is able to successfully attack port infrastructure and enable its grain corridor, its export work through Black Sea. So there are about a dozen of different Ukrainian maritime drones. It's not all of them, so now there is new developments. There are a few agencies that are operating them, including Special Operation Forces and the Security Service of Ukraine. This is the first one that Ukraine developed in 2022, and the first mission actually was failed. This photo was taken in Crimea by Russian military when they found out these drones. The mission was failed because of communication problem. So because this drone was rely only on Starlink system, and near Crimea Starlink just didn't work. But now Ukraine adjusted these drones, and so they could perform mission up to more than 1,000 kilometers. They already successfully targeted many Russian warships, and so they use different type of communication. If Starlink or one of the communication doesn't work, there will be plan B, plan C, etc. It's kind of got stuck. Oh. So there could be different tasks that they could perform. So they cannot substitute fully traditional Navy, but they definitely could perform tasks so-called sea denial. So they can push enemy's fleet far away from the zone. And as I mentioned at the beginning, it was 50 Russian warships per day in Black Sea. So now there are only several of them. They could perform different functions, from kamikaze to strike, conducting amphibious operation, rescue operation, ISR, mining, demining, etc. So there are a few methods how to counter them, and Russia tries to improve its success. So there are different engineering barriers that for drones is difficult to break through, electronic warfare of communication system and also using helicopters. So what is the way forward? What Ukraine is working on to develop it? So first of all, to change the number of functions, not only kamikaze, not only just bumped into enemy's warship, but also to use different weapons on the drone, including machine guns, air defense system, and others. And also as a carrier to other drones, including maritime and including air drones. So it means that these naval drones can approach to the enemy coast and then send air drones, UAV, and then to target enemy's position in the depths. So it increases their functionality. And also the usage of them as one group. And this is, for the time being, this is a challenge because it needs to integrate artificial intelligence. So as Mark mentioned, not one person operate one drone, but one person could operate a few of them, and these few drones could perform different functions. So they help each other. So one of them could be for air defense, another one could be for attack, the third one would be for communication system, etc. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to your question.
Thank you. Peter, please. Yeah, please.
First, thank you very much for hosting us here at Dset and as having organized conferences and staffed and run microphones and recruited some of you in the audience to do the same. Thank you very much for all you've done to put together a good conference, and also to President Du and Zhang for really making Dset not just sort of carrying Taiwan's flag out into the world, but about creating practical contributions and collaborations that we're seeing really just the tip of the iceberg of what they have done, and congratulations for everything you've done in such a short time. At the Jamestown Foundation, we spend a lot of our time thinking about the adversary, right? Sometimes about allies, but we're really trying to understand what's going on in their own words and in their own terms. And when you look at what the PLA has been learning from this war that Russia launched against Ukraine, we're seeing the validation of longstanding concepts of informatization and intelligentization that they have been putting into PLA modernization, right? We know that the PLA has not had large-scale combat operations for more than 30 years, around 40 years, but we also know that they study the wars that others fight quite religiously. And the Gulf War in 1991 was a real wake-up call for what they needed to do and what they needed to accomplish. And informatization is something that we think of as like, oh, well, this is about moving information and sensors. But really, for those of you with a military background, the best way to think of it is MASENT and ELINT for everything. And that means that drones are an ideal vehicle for bringing that information to people, coming up with novel ways to sense things that you might not be able to sense. Sure. Maybe your sonar isn't good enough to detect a U.S. submarine, but it is still thousands of tons of displacement in the water. It is a magnetic field. And although one way might not be perfect, if you start taking one and then another, all of a sudden you end up with something very different. And I think this gets the point that has been made, that there are interesting ways to use these that we just haven't even thought of yet. And the PRC is, in fact, moving quite fast on thinking through these things, because what Mark others have described, the Jiutian drone mothership that is supposed to be fielded sometime this month, if it goes according to plan for the PLA, is about a mothership for drones that will be able to carry sensors, anti-radiation and electronic warfare systems, and then a strike package to go along with it. Right? So in a sense, it is a fully functional vehicle capable of launching a range of missions all on its own. Right? So everything that you guys just said, but they're already moving to field that right now based off of some of their lessons. So I think another piece that's quite critical for them is that they've understood the value of being prepared for protracted conflict. They've seen that that modern war is not going to be fast, is not going to be simple, and your ability to continue producing day in and day out and to adapt to it as you're going is pushing them forward. And it's worth noting that a couple of months ago they announced that they would be procuring the production of 2 million drones, so orders of magnitude different. And that means that just to get those, to fulfill those contracts, they will be expanding the capacity to produce in a way that we have still not even adjusted in our own thinking to. Second, they've also learned that drones can be used to speed every part of the kill chain, from identifying a target to sort of clearing the pathway for them, to delivering a weapon, to seeing whether or not it actually had its effect. That all of these can be done faster, especially when you start mixing in the software and AI-enabled computer vision to help see things. The other is that they need to be producing agile, low-cost drones, that it's not just here is a set way of doing it, but it's everything that Yurii said that Ukraine has learned from this experience. The thing is, this is one of those reasons why I think you have to take the PLA a lot more seriously than people who want to dismiss them as saying, oh, well, they haven't fought, or they haven't done these things. Because at the end of the day, the United States has not fought a peer adversary in decades. And in some cases, for as long as the United States has been at war in some areas, it is not about the Navy, it is not about the Air Force operating this way. But here is a military that in peacetime has been operating a higher tempo, and since 2022, they've moved this up to a higher level of I mean, we wouldn't call these things training, right? When Steve was at the National Security Council, we would call what they're doing around Taiwan a military operation that requires political approval. And so whatever we think about the purges or the so-called corruption right now in the PLA means that everyone who is getting promoted is going to have had operational experience at a very high level in a way that the PLA had never been operating before. And frankly, I'd prefer if a few more of those guys got purged instead of the old ones who had never had this experience. So, what does this sort of mean for us? I think it's a recognition that if we're going to get ourselves away from talking about thousands of drones or hundreds of drones and developing the actual capacity to produce, then we need to make sure that our Department of Defense or our Ministry of National Defense, others, have a very clear concept of how do they use thousands, not just in this one-to-one way, but in a sort of more on a scalable way that will actually be able to do it. Because until they do it, there's no reason for a government, there's no reason for a legislature to approve the budget to do those kinds of things. So you need that concept. The second thing you need is a force structure and sort of an organization to accommodate it. Ukraine and Russia have both changed things fairly dramatically. So in some cases, you have whole units that are drones, and in some cases, you have small specialized units that are part of a brigade or part of a regiment that are deploying it. We have to think through those things in the United States, in Japan, in Taiwan, in Korea, and many other places. The next thing is that we also have to think about how we're actually going to create demand. And again, that means maybe it's appropriate to be thinking about hundreds while you're trying to test things out, but we need to be burning through those, running them through their paces, putting them through as realistic a setting as we possibly can, so that we know when we scale up and that we go to 10,000s and hundreds of thousands that we're actually getting something that can stand the test that is likely to face, and that they are something that we can iterate on quickly and rapidly and adapt to what an adversary does. But if we're going to sit here and so you either have to come up with a large military tender, or if we're going to rely, as we seem to be willing to do, on civilian dual use to create that demand, then we actually have to stop allowing a corrupted market, right? There is not actually a free market at play as long as you have a predatory state actor like the PRC being active on that market, right? Just the existence of Huawei and ZTE over a period of about 15 years, the critical years of the 2000s and the early 2010s, subtract, I think according to ITIF, about $17 billion in R&D that was not invested by Western telecom companies, right? That's what the cost was. It wasn't a dollars and cents. You couldn't see it on a profit or loss. It was investing in the next generation. And so if we want that market, if we want that progress, we're going to have to create it. And the reason why there is a commercial space industry that the PRC is chasing rapidly and as fast as they can and as hard as they can to catch up with is because we block them out. And so anyone who thinks that human rights is a soft issue, Steve will know, it was our mutual friend Frank Wolf who said, absolutely not, we're not going to do this. And it was a human rights concern that made him say, we don't want this kind of space cooperation. Well, we've got plenty of reasons to have human rights concerns and issues with DJI and the other PRC drone companies that are corrupting the market. And therefore, we have to think about how we block that off, how we create it. And yes, it will be painful, but it's going to get more and more painful because otherwise we'll have to do this in the middle of wartime when there's a mix of military and civilian demand. So, as I think has been said earlier today, the more we do this now, it might be painful, but it's a lot less painful than it will be when we do it in the heat of a crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks for our distinguished speakers for sharing the very inspiring experiences. Now we are open to the floor. We have 30 minutes, so each round we will collect 3 questions.
Please identify your name and affiliation first and keep the question short within 30 seconds. Mr. over there. Just you. Yeah, thank you for sending it. Our staff will give you the microphone. And we may collect another 2 questions at next round.
Hello. Hi, I'm Tristan Tong from RCDA. So I have 1 question to Yurii and Peter. You all mentioned the UAVs used in the modern warfare, and based on a news report that Taiwan buy about 850 UAVs for our reserve forces and deployed around Taipei. But according to the report, the UAV is basically commercial use. But what we learned from Ukraine war is that the electronic warfare basically persist or continue to exist in the war in the battlefield. But with the raw commercial use UAVs, these UAVs won't be able to really survive during the war, maybe a day or 2. So do you have any suggestions for our M&D to further enhance the UAV capabilities?
We collect another 2 questions from the audience. The miss in the front. Yes.
Hi, I'm Erin Hale. I'm from Al Jazeera. I have a question. You've talked a lot about how it's been like 30 years since China fought a war. It's been how many decades since the U.S. directly fought a war. But Taiwan has officially not fought a war since the 50s. Meanwhile, you're also designing drones. And I'm sure many people in this room have done their military service. But I was wondering, how are you going to how should Taiwan branch the gap between the knowledge gap that you can't even join a peacekeeping force for diplomatic reasons, and you have no experience like fighting a war? How can you bridge that and then design drones at home that are supposed to be used fighting the PLA? I hope my question makes sense. And I'll leave that open for anyone to answer. Thank you.
Quick reminder, each speaker will have 2 minutes to respond, and we collect the last question of the first round. Mr. in here, just nearby, thank you.
My name is Walter Liu. I'm from the Business Today, a major business weekly in Taiwan. I have 1 question for Mr. Valentine and Mr. Poita each. Question for Mr. Valentine is, I think you just mentioned a little bit about your background. It reminds me 100% of what I saw in the movie Top Gun. It's more personal, although I think it's about your background. How do you've been a pilot for more than a decade. How do you adjust yourself to this emerging trend in the drone for aero combat? And my question for Mr. Poita is, you have discussed in detail about the drone impact on the Ukraine military. I'm simply interested that you also mentioned that one area that's been impacted is the force structure and training. I'm just curious that in the modern battlefield in Ukraine that has been hugely impacted by drone, when it comes to basic military training for Ukraine soldiers, do you still require physical strength, like how fast you can run for 500 meters? And do you still require recruits to develop a reasonable degree of sharpshooting and do those basic training concepts still reason in the modern day battlefield? Thank you.
Okay. So Yurii, you have so many questions, and so anyone, yeah, please.
So Tristan, thank you very much for your question. About protection, there are different ways how to protect your drones from being jammed. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it doesn't successful. So this is a constant struggle. So basic approach is first of all to do coding of your channel of communication. It shouldn't be open. It should use some algorithm to code this. So it made for electronic warfare more difficult to disrupt it. Secondly, the change in frequency. Because electronic warfare jamming, they are actually jamming that are focused on the particular band or on particular frequency. But if you move to another band, so this jamming system is not successful anymore, is not official anymore. So it's always kind of changing of frequency. So that's why I mentioned that drones should be modified, so it should be easy to change, to do some changes, so to change some communication system in very fast way. Another approach is to attack your enemy electronic warfare system. So that's why I mentioned that drones should be integrated into this killer chain and together with so-called electronic intelligence. So your electronic intelligence should identify electronic warfare station of your adversary and then attack it. And then you use drones for other operations. So that's why this operation is complicated. There is a first stage, second stage, third stage, etc. And also, when it comes to some technical solution, there are directed antenna. So if antenna is directed, so it means that jamming it only could be done from particular point, from particular direction. So actually, this is how Shahed, these Iranian-made drones, are operating in Ukraine. So their antenna is very well protected from jamming system. In terms of physical training, basic training, we do continue this concept. So there is about 1 month of basic training of soldiers and about 1 or 2 months of special training of soldiers. So we think that without good physical condition, there is no way to achieve also good morale, because it's not only about operating drones, but you need to deploy yourself on the position, and perhaps you need to run out from the position. So good physical training is also an advantage for every soldier. Thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, thank you. To add to what Yurii said, to the gentleman that had the question about commercial drones and lack of ability to deal with EW, I think that's a false statement. We make commercially available drones, dual-use drones, and we have solved the EW problem. And I shouldn't say solved. It is always a journey, because EW is always evolving as well. But much like Yurii said, we used our software-defined radios to create a frequency agile radio that could find clear channels. And also we used our computer vision techniques, which we use for obstacle avoidance, to create the ability to operate without GPS. So when GPS is spoofed or denied, our drone actually doesn't care. It can keep doing what it was doing. So that's an important part of the autonomy that I was talking about. Now, there's a downfall for that, because to add those things into drones, it increases complexity, it increases cost, so there's always a trade-off. And I would also add, I think that is important not only in a military context, when someone is purposefully trying to deny you use of the spectrum. You could be in public safety, law enforcement, construction, what have you, and have to deal with electromagnetic interference, or if you're in a downtown area, much like in downtown Taipei, deal with multipathing effects from GPS bouncing around the different buildings. So we see a lot of our public safety and law enforcement customers have to use those exact same capabilities. So I think it is a dual use need. Whether you call it EW or EMI, it's really the same solution. And to the gentleman with the Top Gun statement, I appreciate that you would even think I'd be close to that. Yes, being a fighter pilot was just like the movie, except when we went to the volleyball court, we were much fatter and we drove minivans with our kids in them instead of motorcycles. But more seriously, though, you bring up a very important point, and it's around human adoption of technology. So I often hear people talk about we need more tech, we need tech, we need tech. Maybe. We need to adopt the technologies that we have. And I'll give you a specific example from my career. So I mostly flew F-16s, but had an opportunity early on during the new fighter programs that I won't mention to do some pilot vehicle interface work. And as part of that, I distinctly remember an opportunity where we were looking at the screen and there was a little red triangle on the screen, and the instructor said, okay, you can shoot that now. I'm like, hold up. What do you mean I can shoot that now? How do I do all these different things that I do as a pilot to verify that as a hostile aircraft? And the guy said, well, if you really want to do that manually, you can touch all these buttons and swing a dead cat 3 times and all these other things, and it will do it. But he's like, why do you care? And that question hit me hard because I went, what do you mean, why do I care? This is what I do. I'm a pilot. I'm putting my wings on the line when I hit this red button saying that I've done all of these things to determine that's a hostile aircraft, and you're now telling me this computer can do that better than me. But you know what? After about 3 days, I realized the computer was better at doing all that math faster than me. And that really opened my eyes, because when I learned that, all of a sudden, all the cognitive power that I was putting into manually aggregating all these data feeds and realized I could rely on that and trust that, now it freed up all of my cognition to do higher order thinking and to do actually the things that were more important for a human to do in the airplane. And I think, I surmise, I hypothesize, all of the drone operators in the world are going to go through this same thing, where they were used to having fingers on sticks and flying the drone manually, and all of a sudden, they're not going to have to. But once they gain trust, it will help us adopt this technology so that we can actually do more good for humanity with it. But it was a great question, actually.
Actually, my answer to Aaron follows exactly on that point, which is the one way that you get people ready is by rigorous, realistic training, and that's going to mean, like, if you're looking at numbers in the hundreds and the thousands, you're conceivably going to burn through that equipment if you were actually doing real training. Or you're going to destroy it with electronic warfare, or you're going to do other things that damage it. So that's another reason for thinking about it in much, much larger numbers. I think those of you who have seen the Taiwanese military exercising over years would recognize this problem. If you don't have an assured supply of it, you don't know when it's going to be contracted again, and if you contract it, you don't know when it's going to be delivered, you don't train with it. You don't burn it because you might need it for that really bad day that we all fear is coming and hope that we can deter. And this is, if you're not doing these things, if you're not rigorously testing it, right? What's interesting to me is we knew that there was a complex electronic magnetic environment coming, as the PLA refers to it, right? But we didn't train for that in the United States for a long time. It was like, oh, that's difficult, it's complicated. The PLA, for better and worse, has been thinking about, and in some cases being to train in that complex environment, and deliberately so they could see it. That's the kind of realistic training that you have to be doing, and you have to be doing it repeatedly, over and over, because you are what you do every day.
Just a quick response to Al Jazeera questions is about the combat experience you want to ask about our drones, right? So, and also considering for Chinese drones is on both sides of battlefield, that is really a weakness about Taiwan's drones. But I want to steal the idea from my friend Maria. She said that we must to make the market entry opportunity for Taiwan's drones. So sell more Taiwan's drones to different markets, to EU, to American to test whether our drones effectively and can respond to the counter measures effectively. So I think open the market for Taiwanese drone to train either a pilot or the UAV, give us opportunity for Taiwan's drone and make them into your market and try it. I think will be better. And it can compensate our combat experience.
Director Tsai, please.
Yeah, comment for the second question about there is no war between the mainland China and Taiwan. But every year we perform the simulation. So we can learn from the simulation, and as I know, the simulation will help by supervised by the U.S. government. So I think we can learn from there. And also our some weapon or some defense capacity built from the simulation. And another for right now, currently the Taiwan drone development, they consider use the military and commercial, both use common hardware specification. Okay, so maybe they use the software or some cybersecurity method to turn the commercial drone into the military usage. Okay, so this is my comment on the couple questions. Thank you.
Okay,
Now we invite last two questions, each within 30 seconds, and our speakers will have 1 minute to respond. Mr. over there. 孟阳往后.
Thank you. My name's Keshav, and I'm a Taiwan MOFA fellow based at NCCU. My question is for Yurii and Peter. Much of the discourse in Taiwan focuses on drone lessons learned by Taiwan from the Russia-Ukraine conflict. What are some lessons that the PLA has imbibed from the Russia-Ukraine war? Thank you.
Last one question, maybe from this area. That gentleman, yes.
Yeah, this is CJ from THLI. And my question is that in the real war in Ukraine, the unit for the drone is several millions per year. But Taiwan, or as I know, Skydio's production productivity, the unit is several thousand per year. So that's a huge gap. What do you think about how can we cope with this huge gap to defend ourselves? Thank you.
Okay, Yurii, any lesson from Taiwan and also from the PLA?
Have I understand your question correctly? What you mean that what is the discourse in Taiwan? No?
The lesson can learn from Russian-Ukrainian war, both from Taiwan and mainland China, PLA.
Lessons that could be learned or lessons that already learned?
Either way.
Maybe I would need 1 minute to prepare. Maybe other.
Look, my presentation was what has the PLA learned? It's very clear that you have to be prepared for protraction and create the production to do it. Our failure to do so is actually undermining our ability to deter the PRC from doing what it's doing in the way that it's thought about it. Second, you have to be able to produce sort of simple, lightweight, agile drones on a mass scale that you have to be moving from a one-to-one to a one-to-many, as Mark put it, and that they are already applying those lessons to start being ready to learn the next set of them. And in terms of what do we do about the issue of production, the simple point is that we will actually have to create demand by either creating the market or actually contracting from the defense side over multiple years, which legislatures are loath to do as a former congressional staffer. And you either block out a civilian market or you're going to have to create demand by contracting it. It's that straightforward.
Just briefly answer the gentleman's.
So there are actually very many lessons that Taiwan already learned and could learn from the drone warfare. And I think that most of them Taiwan already realized. So most of the conclusion Taiwan already made. The problem is that how to implement it. And there is how to scale up production, how to integrate it into the armed forces, how to change the philosophy, how to change the mindset of military, how to use them effectively, then how to scale up the number of instructors and then number of soldiers that could effectively use them, then how to enable logistics. So this is the very practical issue that still there is a huge room for improvement. But definitely Taiwan realized that drones are important for ISR, for attack operation, and also in maritime domain. So next week in Ilan, if I'm not mistaken, will be the competition of USV maritime drones, if I'm not mistaken, on Wednesday. So it's also an indicator that Taiwan wants to integrate these maritime domain drones also in its own defense system. Thank you.
Yeah, to answer the drone manufacturing capacity question, at least from our perspective, we are making over 1,000 a month. We've made 55,000. The majority of those have been in the last 4 years. Again, making well over 1,000 per month. We could double to triple that capacity in a week. That's not an issue. Given 6 months, we could far exceed that, and we have had discussions with folks within different military organizations, and when the demand signal is codified in there and is backed up with investment, we were ready to move.
Echo with this, 3 words, clear demand signal. So we need from domestic procurement for government and also for international market. So open the market for Taiwan to opportunities to scale up. I think that is the best way to go. Thank you.
Okay, I'm told to finish this section and also deliver a very short concluding remarks. So first, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to our distinguished speakers, engaged participants, and international guests. Your insights, questions, and shared experiences have made today's discussion not only enlightening, but inspiring. This summit is not the end, but a beginning. The challenges we face in building resilient supply chains are complex, but with continued dialogue and cross-border collaborations, I'm confident we can move forward together. I would like to take this moment to recognize our incredible organizing team from Dset. Their dedication and creativity have brought this summit to life far beyond my expectation. I'm really proud to working together with this fabulous team. And to each member of the team, thanks for your tireless work behind the scenes. And let's carry the moment from today into future collaborations across sectors, across regions, and across disciplines. Thank you again, and you have safe travels back to your country. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dset would like to sincerely thank all of our distinguished speakers and participants of your valuable contributions and thoughtful discussions. We hope today's conversation inspired dialogue beyond the Dset 2025 Forum National Strategic Summit on Supply Chain Resilience. Thank you once again for joining us.